Alex, we good to go?
You are good.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming today. I'll try to make good use of your time. I'm not a big fan of the summer, as you all know that, so we don't have a lot of summer meetings. I'm one of these seasonal people, and it is probably a good time for, in our industry, to take a little break or whatever, and I wanted to thank you. I did, for really the first time in 8 years since I've owned the firm, take a number of vacations, and thank you for allowing me to go to Cuba, and to Nashville, and to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and to Austin, and I found those things reinvigorating. I was able to go to this Billy Reed shindig in Florence, Alabama. And it was kind of a corporate retreat thing that they had for their company and then their clients. And it was really quite fascinating. We're going to try and do some article about it and see what happens with that. But it was taking the Billy Reed brand and reminding them 11 stores in 11 different states and their corporate people, and bringing them to Florence, Alabama, which is the world headquarters of Billy Reed, which is a $2 billion industry, just so we know, and reminding them that the decisions are made very local. It's a global company. The inspiration can be global, and they make shoes in Italy, so he has to go to Milan to the European fashion shows. The bulk of the products are determined by New York and what happens in New York and Fashion Week and those sort of deals. The single largest customer is Nordstrom's, of course, much larger than even their own stores, and they're selling at TJ Maxx and Marshalls and other things also or whatever. But the inspirations come from quality of life, their decisions locally. Billy wants to coach Little League for his 12-year-old son, and he wants to be at home at dinner with his wife, who was born in Florence, Alabama. That's why they live in Florence, Alabama. They live in a modest two-story wooden house in a little historic district, population 13,000 in Florence, Alabama, by a little junior college, and they walk in the afternoon. He drives a black Jeep. He doesn't drive a big fancy Range Rover or anything of that nature. But I mean, he's getting his inspiration from spices in India and lamb's wool in Turkey and the mountains of West Texas and the sky, and they're trying to take this image and this quality. They're all about Alabama farmers growing organic cotton, and a mill being reinstituted that closed in the 1950s and recreating jobs in Alabama where they can produce shirts made in America, paying living wages for people in Alabama, and producing shirts that are sold worldwide. They can't do that with everything, and they have to sell that shirt for $125, not $9.95, but they're able to provide this quality of life for their employees in these jobs. And I went just to kind of fascinated. It was a very Southern sort of thing, Southern fashion, Southern food, Southern music, tied to their corporate culture. It was very invigorating for me to remind myself that we're doing the same thing, creating a quality of life for you guys, creating these neighborhoods, reminding ourselves that we're local. It's an international city that we live in. Our clients are coming from all over the world, and we're touring these Arabic immersion schools and this 21st century and 22nd century technology in our industry. But it's fairly grounded in common sense of yes ma'am and no ma'am, politeness and kindness and quality of life and things. So thank you that's my commercial about Billy Reed, but thank you for letting me go to that, because even on vacation I'm inspired for those sort of things or whatever. My Austin trip last weekend, it's how does this city that we all love and want to be in, remember everyone loves Austin, if we all could live in Austin we all would, we just can't make a living in Austin, Texas. How can they deal with gentrification? How are they dealing with traffic? How are they dealing with quality of life? How do you keep Austin weird when you're adding all these tech people, the Googles and the Apples? Apple's single largest employment center and campus is in Austin, Texas. It isn't even in Seattle anymore. They've invested 17 buildings and employing almost 30,000 people in Austin, Texas. That's where Apple is making decisions today. They're not just making it in Silicon Valley or in Seattle. It's pretty interesting to see how they can't get people to move to Seattle, they can get them to move to Austin, Texas, and live in a better climate and a lower cost of living or whatever. But Austin has its own challenges, its own problems or whatever. How does it stay local and focus on local chains versus international chains? So it was very interesting, and thank you for that. But now it's the fall, and we've got to get going. It's football season again, so it's time to start playing. And we have a lot going on, great opportunities. And so today, we want to talk about the calendar, kind of things tied to the calendar. A lot going on. It's a busy time of the year. And we're going to try and provide some opportunities for you to feel rewarded and also engage with your clients and customer base. We're going to have this emphasis on training in this fall, on some new things that are going to happen or whatever. And then just continuing to identify the amazing things that are happening in Houston, Texas. So that's kind of a background of what we're going to be doing today, and then some information that I think is pertinent. Just for news, Julie Pettit no longer works here. It's been 6 good years in marketing and promotions and events, but we were just reaching a little impasse there, so you don't need to email Julie Pettit for anything. And who was probably just working on events. Anything related to that, just forward to Aaron at yourblb.com, and Aaron will take care of it. We will certainly have many events, but we're going to regroup on how those events are coordinated or whatever. So no more Julie, you have Aaron instead. If you haven't met Frank in marketing, Frank, where are you? F2, Francis, or Frank, whatever we're going to call him, is here. If you haven't met Frank, Frank is newer in our marketing department. He joined us really kind of full-time. He works for Cynthia Mullins, so he works for us basically full-time now, and is a writer and is inspiration for anything that you need with the written word, MLS comments, flyers, press releases, blog posts, things of that nature. That's really going to be his specialty. So if we have a challenging listing and we need some fresh eyes to go over there and look and maybe help you with some of your MLS comments, your bio, a press release, anything of that nature, still would coordinate through Aaron, but F2 Frank here might be in charge. Just want to make sure you knew who he was. Thank you. So I think the marketing department took a little break also, is fairly well caught up and is ready to hit in high gear what we're doing. We've spent a lot of time the last year or two, branding Boulevard Realty more and more and more. I'm more out there than ever before, and I assure you, at least people know who Boulevard Realty is. In our industry, they know who we are, and more in the global city, they're knowing who we are. We have to continue to work on the north side and some of these other areas to expand our exposure in some of those areas. A little more maybe in Gallup and stuff, but the core of the city, I think we're fairly well known for a company whose name came out in 2010, remember. So it's not like we've been around with Boulevard Realty name for that long. So with regards to the calendar, and just Aaron will send out an email blast to all of you later today summarizing all this. So I didn't expect you to take notes or anything, but I want to talk about a few of these things so that we know what's going on. Which Aaron, I might need a little help here. We will meet again next Tuesday, and we'll have a sales meeting, which is predominantly just sales-driven kind of stuff, information there, training sort of thing. And then the following Tuesday, we're not going to meet, but we're having our educational tour of this area, which maybe not everyone is totally interested in, but if you're selling in this sort of area, I would think you would want to know. And we want to invite any of your clients or any of your fellow realtors. This is not just a Boulevard Realty tour. This is a tour of people who are remotely interested in the local school. So we have a little tour, and we'll go to Travis Elementary, and we'll go to Reagan High School. We're going to the Arabic Immersion School so we can learn more. That is a dual language school whose focus is really on the Arabic language. We have a Spanish immersion school in the city, which we've toured before. We have a Mandarin Chinese immersion school, and this is the latest one for people who want their elementary age children to have a dual language of English and Arabic. And in the 21st century, we probably all need to know a little bit of Arabic. We need to know a little bit of Chinese, a little bit of Russian, and y'all know a lot of Spanish, But to be able to compete worldwide, we're going to have to understand these other languages and these other cultures and these other people. So I think it's going to be a fascinating tour. We meet here at 8:45, we stay on a little schedule, and we're done a little after 1 o'clock. So if you're interested, how do they sign up?
Just email marketing.
Just email marketing@yourbeardly.com, and we can send out little information to your clients, your remote listeners. We'd like to get more people than just Boulevard Realty agents going. Yes, Ken?
Last night, Reagan High School's principal said that there was going to be a real estate agent tour as well at Reagan High School.
That it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Okay.
She just is always going to refer to us as real estate, but it's not just real estate. It's our clients and it's other people also that are here. But I mean, we've coordinated the whole thing. And last year there were 9 or 10 of us, all realtors at Boulevard Realty, and maybe we got Richard Larson from Green Team, I think, went, but we're not doing it. So that is the following Tuesday. So we won't have a sales meeting then. I'm not going to hit every one of these things. There's some opportunities. We have a clay shoot if you have clients or want to go on a clay shoot. It's next Monday or whatever, right? We have a team I've already paid for. You got a hunter or someone that just wants to shoot something. Get out a little frustration. Next Monday, there's an opportunity for you to go.
Is Terry signed up?
Aaron will follow up with that one there. We're going to meet at the Bike Museum, which is a new museum for the city of Houston, over by the Children's Museum later in October. We're going to have our sales meeting at that bicycle museum, which is about Bike Houston and the whole Bikeway initiative and all of the B-share, bicycle, anything to do with the bike or a bike pathway or bicycle safety or any of those sort of things we're going to talk about there. And then following that, not that particular time, but later in that week, we're going to have an event at the Bicycle Museum for our clients, a wine and cheese mixer sort of thing at the Bicycle Museum, which is in the museum district there. Later in October, we have Nancy First coming back from HAR. She's going to the current president of HAR, and she's just going to kind of give us a recap of HAR. And we'll probably invite some other HAR people, which that will be here. What else we have? We have a lot of things coming up. A lot of opportunities for luncheons and galas and things of that nature. Also, I'm chairing a number of different things. So if there's a particular interest that you have, let us know. There'll be ample opportunity. We had that table at the Brilliant Lecture Series last Friday, which was outstanding. Of course, it's somewhat embarrassing when I get a table and then there's 3 vacant seats at our table. It doesn't make us look particularly good, so we want to make sure that you guys, if you sign up, that you go or whatever. But it was very good exposure, I thought, for what is quality of life in our city. What does that mean? What does it mean with traffic? What does it mean with public safety? What does it mean with parks and sustainability and recycling and historic preservation? These are all quality of life issues that the city spends millions and millions of dollars on today for the payoff 5 and 10 and 20 years down the road. So the Bayou 2020 initiative is a program to clean up the bayous, make them more environmentally friendly, make them a pathway for the city in pedestrian way to link all of the city together by the bayous, both walking pathways, greenway initiatives, bike pathways, safety and security. I noticed someone died on a kayak accident yesterday. Gotta be careful of kayaking and watering over there. But I mean, do what?
Kayaking at night.
I think, yeah, maybe.
He found his body, but he was kayaking at night.
He was kayaking at night.
He died a couple of days ago, and they just found
Kayak
him.
safety. We need to work and have a little initiative on kayak safety. But it was just, there was an explanation of what's going on. Same thing with the rerouting of the metro lines and how that worked and what's the impact and how the spokes are working. And instead of coming into the city and going back out, if you wanted to get from the airport to Katy, you had to come downtown, hit the hub, and then go back out to Katy. Now you've got this gridded system where you're able to go crisscross your way through there so that you don't have to come. We don't need to route millions of people downtown and then back out to the other side of town. There ought to be a way that we can get from Intercontinental Airport to the Galleria without coming to downtown. And that was the whole reawakening of how to look at the mass transit system immediately, what we could do, and what can you do in the future to link the city together, and the impact of Uber in the city and the impact of traffic on Uber in the city. How many more people, 5,000 more Uber drivers at the end of this year. 5,000 more Uber drivers makes it easier if you do not have to find a parking space if you're going to Rice Village or if you're going to the Galleria tonight to go to a fashion show. You don't need to find a place to park if you drive Uber. So it was very interesting, and like I said, there'll be more opportunities for that sort of thing. So, Aaron, any more highlights in that deal? Of the calendar?
Heights Bicycle Rally.
Heights Bicycle Rally is coming up. It's the first Sunday in October. And we are a corporate sponsor. It's an opportunity, just to remind yourself, it's not a race. You know, it's a scavenger hunt sort of thing. There's a children's bikeway deal, which is about 5 miles. The adults about 25 miles. You start at any time early in the morning. You can end in the afternoon. It starts at Marmion Park over here. They give you a little scavenger hunt, and you have prizes along the way. You answer the questions, and basically it's just a way to see the city, you know, on your bicycle, come back and enjoy refreshments and food and stuff at the end of the day on Sunday. It should bring out a number of people. Yes, Ken?
I'm chairing the water station at the midway point. If you would like the opportunity to volunteer, I'm very selective, but.
Aaron's going to send out. I mean, we're looking for volunteers, for people who want to work for a little bit. You don't have to work the whole day at the water station. You can.
I'm trying to do 30 minutes, so you can do the rally,
Perfect.
stop,
Great.
hand out water, meet some people.
Great. So that's in October.
October 4th. And then that same day is Sunday Street. It's on Washington.
Where, from where to where?
I believe it's from Shepherd to Houston.
Excellent. This is where they shut down the street basically from 12 to 5 or whatever, and it's pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly sort of thing going on there. Should be fun. Aaron will send out the calendar and keep you updated on that sort of thing. I'm not going to stay here much longer. Okay, state of the market. I tried to lay a little groundwork, even in January, and as we were ending the year, that there was no way 2015 was going to be able to compete with 2013 and 14. There was no way the headline was going to be positive throughout 2015. If oil had been $100 a barrel, the headline was still going to be that there was more inventory, sales were going to be up, and then they were going to be down, and there were going to be this rebalancing of the marketplace. And we're seeing that. There's no doubt. I've re-emphasized it in the spring. I've shown you the trends. We are going from what was 100% seller's market into a more balanced approach, into a more buyer's market. And we're seeing that happen just as a result of, you know, no one could have sustained those sort of numbers. The high percentage of growth and increase was going to have to be brought back. The market was never going to be able to sustain that. So we're continuing to see that in the marketplace. Single family market's definitely becoming more balanced, and those sort of things that we've been talking about for a long time. I think we have to be realistic. The impact of oil it's fairly severe. I mean, I don't want to be a doom and gloom person. I don't want you to come out of it that way. But I want you to understand there's going to be tremendous stress in our industry as a result of prolonged oil and gas problems and oversupply in their market. And that stress is going to be felt in the banking system, and it's going to be felt in the rental market, and it's going to be felt in the sales market. And it's going to be fragile. Every transaction is going to be fragile for a while. And I don't see it getting significantly better. I think we have to be realistic. It's going to get worse, okay? If you are not aware of the stress in the marketplace, then let me make it clear, there's stress in the marketplace, okay? And the pendulum is going to continue to shift. I think overall the market is good, but it's more stressful, and it's going to get more stressful. It's going to take longer for buyers to make a decision. They're going to be hesitant. The houses that we rented last year easily, or the people have lost their job, they can't pay their rent, they're not going to stay 12 months, they're going to break their lease, they're not able to find a job. The banks are going to get more sensitive who lend to developers and investors and things of that nature. There is this tremendous need to sell some houses, and there's not much that we can do in our industry to make a big difference right at the moment. The consumer's going to be a little hesitant. You're going to have a rise of interest rates here in just a little bit this week, and it's also going to create, it's good for the national economy, but in the immediacy, it's going to create this impression that housing is going to take a hit. And it's going to take a little hit of just sheer numbers, but the overall market is still relatively strong. It's going to take longer to sell a house, and we've been talking about it. These sellers need to understand the art of negotiation, okay? If you don't negotiate, you ain't gonna get shit sold around here for quite a while. So the sellers need to allow themselves some room to negotiate on the initial price. They're going to learn to negotiate in the option period. They're going to learn to negotiate over the appraisals. We're just going to learn to negotiate. We're going to learn to negotiate over the timing. We're going to see the impact of timing in just a little bit, anticipate problems, and anticipate some delays of the closing. And if we're not prepping our people with that sort of thing, we're doing an irresponsible job of educating the sellers. We represent either a buyer or a seller. The buyer has to have some reasonable expectation also, but I'm just telling you, if I go out today and if I want a David Weekley home or a Perry home or a townhouse in Midtown, I can negotiate today where I had no ability to negotiate in 2013 and 14. But there's plenty of opportunity for buyer incentive in our marketplace today. Now, when you start down that path, the buyers get nervous. If they think they can get $10,000 off today, they think they're going to get $20,000 off tomorrow. And these are curves. They go down past. So they have an opportunity to negotiate today, I believe, but they will not have, the inventory won't stay this way because it's been slower in the construction mode for the last 12 months. So by the time we get to the summer of 2016, it's going to have already corrected itself, I think, with regards to the inventory of some of those products. But in September, and October, November, December, and January, and February, there's going to be ample opportunity for negotiation, I think. So the headlines are going to continue to be up and down a little bit. I suspect they're going to be more negative than positive. And I think that gives the buyer this expectation that they're in total charge, and they're really not in total charge, but I mean, I think they have the ability to negotiate more today than they did last year. That's just the sheer fact of it. It doesn't mean that they can take advantage. It's still, if we had never had 2013 and 14, we'd all think this is great, right? When we compare 2015 to 2012, 11, 10, 9, 8, and 7, it's going to be amazing. We just aren't comparing to that. We're comparing to 13 and 14, which were unreal in the marketplace. So the education of the buyer, there's only so much we're going to be able to do. It's the expectation of the seller I think we're going to have to prep. They may not like that deal. The only thing, this is the impact today, the buyers beg like hell to get a buyer, and then they don't want to negotiate. And the only thing worse than a buyer is not having a buyer, okay? So if you've been on the market and you were 1.1 million, and all of a sudden, after 9 months, you got to take 1 million, and the guy asks for $5,000 off, and you say no, and that one goes away, and you sit there 9 more months and you take 900,000, what the hell did you gain again now? Let's be realistic. We're going to have to tell these sellers, the only thing worse than this buyer is not having this buyer. And you're going to have to set them to some reasonable expectation, I think. It's the sellers we're going to have a problem with. It isn't the buyers. It's the seller's time. It's the seller. And like I said, if they piss off these buyers, they're going to wish they had them back. I think we need to get rid of that. Don't want to be too negative, because in reality then, we're in a selling season. More houses sell in our markets in September, October, and November than sell in the previous 6 months. So we're going to sell more houses in this fall than we have been selling over the summer. We're just not going to sell as many as we sold in October of 2013 or 14, but we're going to sell a lot of houses. And the buyers will make decisions, and we will sell a lot of houses. It's just we're going to have to negotiate our way through there a little bit more than we had to before. So I need for you to understand the market, and if we need a little better expectation with a buyer or seller, I need for you to pull me in and let me visit with your buyer or let me visit with your seller, because I can say it probably more forcefully than you can. I mean, we need to give them a reasonable expectation. You're going to see, like I said, we talked about this before. Buyers and sellers didn't think they needed a real estate agent in 2013 and 14. They need you. They need you. And it's going to be easier to get listings than ever before. There's going to be plenty of frustrated sellers out there who are going to want to shift realtors, and you have this opportunity that you didn't have before. Joe and Melissa, they have this builder on West 22nd. We're going to talk about them later today or whatever. But I mean, they called me and they wanted to shift realtors from, who did they have before? I don't even know who they had.
Mary Watson.
Didn't matter. The realtor was not doing anything wrong. And I sat there and told them, your realtor is not doing anything wrong, and we're not going to do anything different from that realtor. In reality, exactly, I mean, I was almost screaming at them, telling them this. They were hell-bent on switching. And then they want to do something. You know, they want to put up a banner, a buyer incentives, and they want to drop, they're not listening to what I said, which was, there was going to be no movement in your house August 1 to September 15th. There was nothing Mary Wassup was going to do or anyone else was going to do. There wasn't a buyer for that house right at that moment. But they wanted to do something. And if I hire the airplane and put a little banner up there that says West 22nd for sale today, I don't know if that makes any difference. I really don't. I can play a TV commercial. I can do an email blast. We can, plant the St. Francis. We can do all that shit. But I don't think it was going to make any difference until about now. And clean your house, keep the yard up, dust the damn thing, and get ready for a buyer when they come. But they're likely to come here in the fall, but they weren't going to come August 15th. They were getting in back to school mode or whatever. And they just their realtor wasn't here, the buyer wasn't here, there was nothing that we could do for that sort of thing. So we'll meet with them again today, and we're going to say the same thing I said August 1, August 15, September 1, and September 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. I said the exact same thing. Okay, I don't know what sort of communication gap we're having here, but there was nothing that you could do. There is nothing. How many of y'all are finished with your Christmas shopping? I mean, is there anything Mega Marshalls did to get y'all to buy all those Christmas presents so that you were finished August 1? No, people don't buy all their Christmas presents because they're still wondering what else is going to come out between August 1 and December 24th, right? There's going to be plenty of people shopping on the 24th. Well, real estate is much that way. They're going to look for a while, and then they're going to go make a decision based on the marketplace. If they think there's going to be more stuff on, or they think there's going to be something cheaper, they're not going to make a move. There has to be some takeaway for it over there. So that's just kind of where we're at with the state of the market. I think overall, it's good, okay? But there's stress in the marketplace that we need to be aware of. Additional stress that will kick into real estate has to do with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and the changes that go into effect October 1 here. So they've moved this date before, and now it looks like this one's going to stick, which is the change of basically mortgage notification to the buyers. And we had a lovely presentation, which is on Back Agent, and a whole explanation of this sort of thing that you probably ought to go back and watch on our website, on our Back Agent, this little video that's here. That's a very good explanation of exactly what it means. I'm not going to repeat all that today because we had Alex videotape it for us or whatever, so that you can.
Was it September 14th?
No.
It's this one right here, the 69. Yeah.
Oh.
It was June.
June.
It was June because it was going into play or whatever.
In August.
Man, that's professional.
Okay. So, I'm not going to hit all the highlights, but if you have a cash buyer, you're not impacted by this thing, other than the forms change again from what used to be the good faith estimate or truth in lending, okay? You're not going to have that if it was cash, but I mean, that form is now a loan estimate. By cash, you don't have this problem. But all truth in lending and all good faith estimates go away after October 1, unless they were already in play. And your HUD, that we've referred to for the last 25 years, is now going to be called the closing disclosure. And when you go to closing, the forms are going to look totally different than they ever have before. We need to get used to practicing with this form. okay? And we will have some more training about this form. I'm not going to get too much into the loan estimate. Here's what I'm going to tell you about the loan estimate. If something significantly changes, their interest rate changes, we need to be prepared for a delay of the closing. These lenders are notorious for getting us the documents the day of closing. After October 1, you're going to have these documents 3 days in advance, or you're going to just be moving your close date. So, moving the close date is going to be commonplace in real estate over the next 6 to 9 months while we work our way through this sort of thing, okay? And all this ease of power of attorneys for buyers is not going to be easy anymore, because we're going to have to get them to ship so much sooner, okay? And these business days are calculated on basically mail days. So they deliver mail on Saturday. Saturday is a business day. We used to think of it as Monday through Friday. Think of it as now the mail. If there's no mail that day doesn't count for these forms, okay? So if it's a holiday on Memorial Day on Monday, that day isn't going to count. It's going to be mail days for how much you give these notices to the buyers when there's a loan, and for the closing stuff. So there's this lovely video you should watch. There are brief videos that you should watch. Here's the story. Get a damn good lender. If you don't have a good lender, you're going to be screwed. And if you represent the seller and the seller doesn't have a damn good lender, just get ready for the delay. Okay?
Should we start doing 40 and 45 days then?
I don't think so, because I don't think they're going to be any better about it at day 42 than they were at day 27. I think you ought to just keep it at 30 days, maybe 35, and tell the seller the likelihood is that there's going to be a delay. Okay? And what is our plan of action when there's a delay? So, always, we used to have these 2-day lease back periods. It was fairly common in my world to get 2 days for free, sort of thing. Okay? The recession hit, we had this same problem, there were delays. Now I think, instead of even getting a 7-day lease back period, you ought to plan for the 10-day lease back period, knowing that 3 or 4 of it's really going to get moved anyway, so you're really only going to have the 4 or 5 that we should have had to begin with. I think these lease backs are going to be common. And I think we're going to be moving these dates all the time, especially in November and December as we work our way through it. Because we got the form change, we're going to have interest rate changes. Okay? These interest rates start changing, people start manipulating, they're going to go up and then they're going to go down. So people are going to change their stupid quarter, 1/16 of a point over here to say $4 a month. They're going to do it because they feel like over 30 years it's a big number or whatever. So you're going to start seeing more people shop the lenders more, because it's just going to be more competitive. Right now it's 3.875, and it's not that big a difference if it goes to 3.923. That's not a significant number. The thing about interest rates, they will rise. And when they rise, they're not going to rise significantly initially, but they will continue to rise. It's not like we're going to have a one-time rise of interest rates. We've been at 0 for 7-8 years now. We've never had a period of interest rates where they've remained this constant. Okay? Didn't have it in the Depression. We didn't have it in World War II. We didn't have it in post-World War II in the 60s or 70s or 80s. I mean, we've had near consistent interest rates for basically 7 or 8 years here. Okay? How many of us remember, I had 16% interest rate in 1985. They floated between 12 and 14 and 16 and 18 all the time. When I got into real estate in 98, the average interest rate was 7.5. And it would come down. When it goes down, then people automatically, they're refinancing all the time. And they were hedging their way down, then they went to 6, and then went to 5, and then we all used to think 5 was amazing. And then they just kept going down. My guy who closed Sunset, which was $2,269,000, borrowed $1,785,000 at 1.875% interest rate last month. Okay? He borrowed $1,785,000 at 1.875 from Chase. Okay? That's a big number compared to 5, right? You're talking about interest rates for $1,785,000. So, get ready for some delays. prep the people for delays, anticipate the delay, and have a plan for the delay. This pressure of, I'm moving out the same day, I'm not moving until I get the money, and I'm gonna try and move and close the same day. I mean, it's gonna be problematic. I mean, it's gonna be problematic. I'm telling you, everyone knows it's gonna be problematic. Let's just prepare for the problem. So, I'm not going to delve too much into these deals. I'm going to let you refer back here. We may send you some brief stuff. I'm sure you get plenty of pilot companies that send you some of this stuff either, so it shouldn't be that really complicated. I'm not going to delve on it today. Unless you have a particular question you want me to answer about these forms, we're going to move on. Okay. Tied to this, not that we don't have enough confusion in our world, the Real Estate Commission decided we should change some forms over here. The lovely Real Estate Commission and the Broker Lawyer Committee try and make this as complicated as possible because they propose some things, then they undo those things, and then people think that's going to happen, and then they go over here, and you never know what day they're really going to start. But we're going to have some fairly good changes kicked in relatively soon. The Broker Lawyer Committee will meet on October 7th, and typically what they do is they make these things start immediately, even though the forms aren't ready, okay? I'm not gonna, and there's, most things stem from renaming, credit, and stuff tied to these little forms. So I'm not even gonna hit you with those sort of things, because I don't think it's that significant one way or the other. But a few things are. So, and they haven't really kicked out these forms. They're very hard for you to find because they keep changing the damn things. But a few things that I think are important. So go to 7A, which is not the most significant, but with regards to inspections and how we're doing these hydrostatic tests, which we've always had the right to do hydrostatic tests, but it was always contentious. This is when you have a house and you're basically testing the water pipes, okay? Older houses, if you ever sold a ranch-style house from the 40s or 50s, you should probably have a hydrostatic test. The basic mold issues in Texas were from the toilet underneath the ranch-style house was leaking. It was a very small leak. It leaked underneath the hardwoods. It leaked, you know, it's over months and months and months and months and months and months. It leaked and it got all over the area. And this mold started kicking in. And people didn't notice the mold until it was too far gone or whatever. And had all these mold claims and stuff of this nature. I think they could have solved a lot of that. The lawyers made it very complicated or whatever. But a lot of small leaks in houses are from plumbing that are rarely detected, you know, because they're so small. So in this deal, you're pulling up the toilet, and you're applying pressure to the water lines, and putting like a cap on the other end to see if there's a water leak somewhere in the house. In a pier and beam house, if a leak's not that big a deal because the water generally goes down. In a slab house, it had nowhere to go, so it goes underneath. In that little ranch-style house where the 3 bedrooms are over here, and the living room, dining room, kitchen, goes underneath the floors and gets all over into the great room, the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, and then it buckles the whole floors. Later, 3 years later, after your client bought the house, or 9 months, the seller's all gone. So it's very common to have these hydrostatic tests. Now, you're going to have written authorization from the seller in order to do the hydrostatic test, because the inspectors and the realtors were damaging a lot of houses because you did the hydrostatic test and there was a leak, and the leak surfaced in all these places. Who's going to go fix the damage from the hydrostatic test that came from the buyer? Buyer going to pay for it? No. Who usually pays for it? It's the real estate agents get to pay for it. So, the fairly, you know, it's going to be written out here about the hydrostatic test, and there's a separate form that authorizes the hydrostatic test. The pushback is going to be the seller's not going to authorize the hydrostatic test. Okay? And you have the right to do the hydrostatic test. The form's just going to make it clear who's going to pay for the problem as a result of the hydrostatic test. When the buyer terminates, and now there's this big leak over here and water damage, who's going to pay for all that? The inspector or the buyer? So it's a fairly significant change of just the inspections.
Who's most likely to pay for it?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're just not going to negotiate your way. The seller, in theory, is going to pay for it because the seller has the problem. And we've done them a favor by figuring out that they had a problem. Here's the bigger problem. There's plenty of experts out there that say, in normal circumstances, you never have that much pressure and you would have never had this leak. And I'm never going to have this leak because I don't have 400 PSI pound of pressure going on at any one time in my ranch style house. I might have a shower going and the dishwasher going and the lawn sprinkler going, but I don't have, that reduces the pressure of my pipes, not increases the pressure. So the test itself is unrealistic. If I give you mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and eyes blow on you, that's fine. But if I get a big generator and I pour 5,000 tons of oxygen in your deal, your heart's going to break, right? Your lungs are going to explode. Well, because you never had that much pressure applied to you unless you're a passionate kisser. So, I mean, you have to be realistic about the test. I think it's going to make people nervous about how it works. But, I mean, I'm just highlighting it's a change.
It's a reassessment of the blame.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
But aren't more people using the fancy cameras like Michael Bush and?
They are. They are.
Oh,
I
yeah.
asked several, because I've sold a few ranch style houses in my day, and I asked 2 or 3 different companies, plumbers, that were gonna run these things in a 1950s house or so, what percentage of the houses fail the hydrostatic test? And they said anywhere between 90 to 98%. So what I often tell my buyers now is, let's assume there's some hairline leaks in here, because these pipes have been here for 50-something years. Any of us who've been around for 50-something years know we don't quite work as well as we used to. So let's just assume that there is some. Let's just get a camera, because the first thing you do after you run a hydrostatic test is they say, hey, it's leaking. And then they want to charge you more money.
Right.
Yeah.
To go in and then run a camera down there to find out where the leak is.
Which
So
are
I-
roots
my
from a
clients-
tree that's nearby. I mean, that's a tip. You know, could be a shift in the foundation that's very small. Maybe they even did foundation work, which fixed the foundation, but created this new hairline leak over here that's really not used till the grandkids come and visit on Thanksgiving. Now all of a sudden we've got a full house. You know, so you don't often see the leak immediately. You see it maybe under a drought. There's more people watering, which create. You know, there's all kinds of conditions that could impact older plumbing.
So I
in a
usually
house.
advise my clients, let's just go straight to the camera.
Yeah, it's
Let's
probably
just
a better
start
idea.
buying, and let's just go straight
It
to the
just
camera.
costs more, that's why people don't do it.
No, it costs less
It does
now.
cost less, because you don't have to pay for the hydrostatic test.
It does cost less.
All right, that's coming up. All right, let's keep on going. Let's go to the next one. Go to paragraph 9. Okay, here's the big one that you're going to see. So, it's going to be confusing. It's going to be confusing. They made it confusing. Here's a whole new line that says the buyer may extend the closing date up to 10 days by giving notice to the seller that the buyer's lender is required to provide additional disclosures mandated by these new rules. Okay? They're inserting this whole little line that most people aren't, it's not going to be in blue after October 7th anymore, right? It's not going to be in blue. And everyone's going to say, I get an automatic 10-day extension, right? That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
That's not what that says.
No.
It's not what it says. It says that they may extend the closing date, and we don't. But if they only need 3 days, right, to add to the deal, then the extension would be for 3 days. But it is going to grant the buyer the ability to extend because of these disclosures over here, which go into effect October 1. These go into effect October 1. This isn't going to be approved or not approved or modified. Could still be modified. I have to be clear over here. They're going to get nervous because I think they're going to get a lot of pushback in the realtor world when people figure out that you're putting this paragraph into this contract. So I'm not even sure it's going to pass. There hasn't been that much hoopla about it yet or whatever because people haven't figured out. Because we all assumed this was going to be delayed again because we don't want to deal with this and interest rates. Just be easier in my world if they move this one more time to January 1, which is a slower time than the fall is. I'm still for moving this, but it doesn't look like I have any pull with the Obama administration. So you're going to try and do this at the same time, which is going to confuse people even more. So
But you still have to do an amendment to extend it, right? Or is that
theoretically you
automatically-
do, but it's going to be automatic that they're going to have this extension. But yes, you really need the amendment. The lender's going to want the amendment also.
If it's 12 days, do a 12-day amendment.
Yes, yeah. They shouldn't need 12 days. And we shouldn't be changing the damn loan 3 days before closing, or 6 days before closing, or 10 days before closing. Get the loan approval, not a pre-approval. Get the loan approved sooner. But if interest rates start fluctuating, the buyer, if they're buying an expensive house, or if they're just marginally qualifying, are gonna want to get a lower interest rate if they can, 7 days before closing. When oil goes down to $20 a barrel, they're gonna think that they can get a lower interest rate that day because Capital One's gonna have a commercial over there that says they can get 2% interest rate. And it's gonna create confusion. Yes?
So that's another reason not to do 40 or 45 days.
Yeah, because it's gonna be an extended anyway. I think we're gonna get used to extensions.
Send the lender a 20-day close. and then
Right.
take-
Right. I think it's gonna cause confusion. Let's just be aware, this was in there. We'll report back after the broker lawyer committee meeting on the 7th to see what actually happens here and when this even might be available, because who really knows when it's gonna be available. Next to impossible to even find
So
still.
if you think the rates are gonna eventually, at some point in time, whether it's Thursday.
They're going up this week.
They're going up.
They're going up this week.
Okay, so the
They ain't waiting any
seller,
longer.
so the buyer wants to lock in his rate for 45 days.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're gonna do if the rates continue to go up.
They're gonna have to pay for
If
the
they go up
45-day theoretically versus the 30-day.
Right.
They may not initially charge it, but we all used to pay for 30-day locks, not 45-day locks. When they're all the same, there was very little risk to anybody, even the lender, that the rate was gonna change that much in 45 days when the federal rate's at 0.
Right.
You know, so, but yes, I mean, theoretically, yes, as we go up,
Right.
and a quarter point makes all the difference in the world.
Right, but if they did a 45-day lock, then you're looking at, you're not gonna really be
Depends if they lock at 4 and they can get it at 3.75 in day 32, they're gonna start over.
Yeah,
And then you gotta sign all these
or they
disclosures
buy an
again.
extension. Yeah,
One loses their job, and now that one doesn't qualify, so we're gonna redo the loan right quick using one person versus 2 people.
yeah, that's
But
it.
so if rates change, they have to start all over?
If they're in, they must sign these disclosures, they basically 6 days, if their interest rate after they've signed the disclosures and says it's 3.875, and they wanna go down to 3.75, yeah, they're gonna have to sign the disclosures and the dates kick in. Now, if you had a 30-day close and they do it at day 15, that's still fine, it didn't cause any delay whatsoever. You're just gonna have to stay on these lenders who have final loan approval over here, all your disclosures signed well before the closing. And if they start using Capital One or Moneytree or Lending.com and the lenders in, you know, Ardmore, Oklahoma, you're not gonna get the answers to any of these questions. They need to use a local lender. You need them to use TAP.
It looks
Better
sounds
call
like a tax
Tab.
meeting.
They really, I mean, who the lender is going to make a huge difference in your life as interest rates rise and as they fluctuate more. They haven't fluctuated much. It's gonna make a big difference. Go down, there's a bunch of other little things that I don't think we should focus on. I'm just hitting the highlights. Go all the way to the option period, paragraph 23. Here's a new deal. So we've extended these option periods for 3 days, okay? Time of the essence. So when you deliver the earnest money, there's no rule that says you have to deliver the earnest money in 1 hour or before you sign or 2 days after you sign or 3 days after you sign, whatever. It just says the real estate agent, the buyer side and the seller side, must use due diligence to get the earnest money there. So you're the one who can be reported to TREC if you don't do your job to get the earnest money there. If you lie or cheat or steal or something, it doesn't give you the excuse that you couldn't get the earnest money there. But there's no rule that says if you have it in your drawer and you don't deliver it for 5 days, that's irresponsible. If your buyer's here and they're here from Dubai and they wrote an offer and we used charter title, but the other side changed it to steward title and they only had 1 check and they've got to go back to Dubai and wire the money and then there's a 2-day waiting period from Dubai. That's okay, that happens. That's just the way it is. You're under contract without earnest money. You don't have to have earnest money. You have to have consideration. Money is a consideration. The contract is a consideration. The seller took it off the market. That was consideration. Those things all make us into binding contracts. You just have to do due diligence in order to get the earnest money there in a reasonable period of time. Okay? We had a whole lesson about this, earnest money. Option fees are different, okay? They spell out specifically in this thing what if you have the right to terminate, the unrestricted right to terminate, you must pay the damn money 3 days after the execution date, and now you must get it there by 5 p.m. of the local time of the property. We're not even midnight, okay? A lot of these other dates used to be midnight. The money, not the option period, has to be there by 5 p.m. And all these other notices are now, you're going to have to, for your option period, see what it says here. If you're going to terminate, you're not going to be able to terminate at 10 p.m. at night or 11:59 or whatever like we've had before. This is insane. All realtors are sitting over here drunk and in bed at 11:35 wondering if we're going to get the notice or not. Let's stop that. Let's stop the madness. If you're going to terminate, the form needs to be to the appropriate place by 5 p.m. of the time. Now, people are in Washington, D.C. They can't do it at 7 p.m. Washington, D.C. time. They got to do it by 5 p.m. at the time of the property here in Harris County.
Wow.
Okay? Or Montgomery County or wherever it is here.
That's good.
I think this is much better for the real estate world. Let's get this shit done during working hours. And so we can all go drink afterwards. But I mean, this is a very significant change in our world about the notices. Okay? I think it's very good. There are a few other clarifications. There was a recent court case on escrow damages, so they're taking out some of this. Notice, go to paragraph 18D. I don't want to get hung up on some of these that rarely come in here, but we always used to say that you know, loser pays and you're up to 3 times the damages based on the sort of thing. There's been some recent court cases, and so they want to take out this sentence that talks about what the damages could be. Could be more than what we thought, could be less than what we thought. We don't really know what the damages are going to be. The courts are doing all kinds of weird things at the moment, including letting gay people get married. And so, who really knows what's happening? So, you know, there's a few of these minor changes that I think are insignificant in the grand scheme of things. The 10-day extension in the closing, fairly significant. The option period at 5 p.m., fairly significant over there. It's just clarifying the word credit and cash and stuff. It's just it's tying the same lingo to
The new disclosures.
the new disclosures. All it is doing is, you know, talking about credit approval again. It's not that big a deal. I'm sorry, Ken?
No, I was asking the same thing about the third party. It looked like they
It's
got
just
rid
getting
of
the
everything.
language all the same throughout the contracts and now these disclosures. You know, it's basically you're getting credit approval, not financing approval. It's just how you're wording it. Okay, so these changes are kicking in. Set for October 7th, still subject to a little bit of change over here, as soon as we know for sure. But I just wanted to hit you with these highlights because it can get confusing what's tied to this October 1 date, which is federal, and here's some contract stuff, which is state. They're trying to get, and then how to go there. Okay, I'm trying to stay in an hour. What other sort of questions have you got? We're going to be doing some pretty significant training on stuff like this. We're trying to make some better lists of these classes. There's some pretty amazing classes, and if you're not going to these classes about understanding tax consequences for realtors and what you can write off, you know, you need to go and take that class. You need to understand some of these forms, and if you're not going to the appraisal class these days, you're not going to the inspector class these days, and we can host these classes. They're 3-hour MCE classes or whatever. We're going to do more of that, but I think there's pretty significant changes happening in all of those sort of things. Get off of becoming a certified negotiating expert. Don't worry about the stupid initials. I don't have any of those initials, and I still sell more houses than all of y'all. Let's work on the information that makes us a more valuable real estate agent. Things like understanding inspections and appraisals and the forms and the financing. Those sort of things probably make you way more valuable there. If, you know, real estate's your career here, get into the game. Get into it. I mean, you got to be working it. You got to be getting your plan. Get with Aaron on your plan. What is your brand? What are you doing and who are you marketing to? Don't wait over here for someone to hand you something. Let's be actively getting a plan. What price point do you want to be selling in? And who are your clients? Who are my clients? Where are my next 10 clients coming from? They're gonna come from a buyer of $1 million house because I have $10 million buyers. They're gonna come from my networking from my art event, or they're gonna come as a result of my participation in the Heights Association. They're gonna come from somewhere. We need to be thinking about where are those people gonna be coming from. If they're coming from Rice teachers or Rice graduates or Rice affiliates, that's perfect. Or Spanish-speaking clients, that's perfect. What are we going to then do to attract the Spanish-speaking client? So we need to be utilizing the marketing department to help you identify where it is that you're getting these buyers. And then if I need to specifically help you with more role playing, this is the time to be going to do it. Okay? So let us help you. We want to help you. And then I think what's frustrated in my world is I go over these sort of things and then I got to go over it 42 more times. I mean, I don't understand why I'm having this conversation about surveys. I don't get it. I'm a really smart person and I don't understand. I don't care about anything else other than if you represent a buyer, make the buyer buy a new survey. And if you represent the seller, make the buyer get a new survey. That's all you need to know. It's irresponsible to do anything else. I don't care what the lender says. I don't care what Greenwood King says. I don't care. If you represent the buyer needs to get their new survey. And if you represent the seller, make the buyer get a new survey. I can explain why in detail, but that's all you really need to know. Check box number 2. That's it. And if you're not doing that, in your role as the professional is to know more than your buyer or your seller or the other agent. And this is one way you can look valuable to each of those individuals to determine what your value really is. So go get the surveys right. We shouldn't be having these conversations years after I've been discussing it. I mean, I really shouldn't, but happy to explain it in more detail. There's 19 videos about it, but let's just make that one clear. Some of these other things, I mean, let's just focus on them and get them right. Any other sort of questions, comments? I want to be useful of your time. Any questions, comments? All right, that's good. Nice meeting. Thank you.